I've dropped everything this week in favour of this. Not specifically this as such, this is just the example car that we're using. It's been a long time ambition of mine to be able to make Matchbox and Hot Wheels car wheels out of random bits of rubbish. Who doesn't dream of making Matchbox and Hot Wheels car wheels out of random bits of rubbish? This is what you need to be able to do it. Hacksaw or hacksaw blade, you might want to spend anything up to the dizzy heights of £4 or £5 on the hacksaw to be able to do the job that we've got in mind here. These are press stud fastenings. You can get these everywhere. They generally wash up in pound shops. I don't really know why. It's only really the smaller two rows that are of any use to us at the moment, and only this side. Although the things on the other side do have a use as well. So, and to be fair, the bigger ones would probably come in handy if you're working with cars of a bigger scale. The good old heat shrink tube, you will need a bit of that. And the plumbing O-rings come in, well, they don't come in very handy. They're crucial to this. Ideally, you want a decent selection, M4, M5, M6 washer-sized plumbing O-rings. You've just got to ask around DIY shops, ask to have a look, buy all the small ones, go to another place, do the same again. These are what has made this whole thing possible. I knew one day they'd do it. They're in the Kids Beads selection. In fact, the actual name of the product is Kids Beads in Hobbycraft. They must have been up all night, well into the small hours thinking of that name. But what we've got here is effectively already a wheel. The 1mm, it's thicker than usual, thicker than you'd normally use for making axles, but most castings seem to be able to accept it quite easily, the 1mm brass rod. And the bead itself, the hole that goes through it, it's just a little bit too wide. There'd be too much slack if you tried to use a thinner one. So that bead, that really is the wheel, effectively. It's just the right size to make a car wheel out of, so there you go. Fit it together, the wheel's on, it rolls perfectly, it rolls straight with that axle rod on there. So that's it, it's done. This car is ready for the Hot Wheels track. We don't need to do anything else to it. That was the whole thing that I want to show you. No, first you've got to start by cutting the bead in half because it's obviously far too wide. But the way these are designed, because I don't know, they're supposed to look like little sweets or something like that. They've got nice stripes all the way along. And you just go for the middle stripe. It's an odd number of stripes, so you just go for the middle stripe, and just keep moving it around and cutting into it as you go around, and then you'll only go through that middle stripe, so to speak, and you'll just be left with two equal-sized halves, and they'll be your first pair of wheels. They are the wheels, really. You could just fit those onto the car, and the car would roll with them. They would work as wheels absolutely perfectly. So in terms of functional wheels made out of nothing. Well, I mean, obviously not absolutely nothing, but oh yeah, sand. The rough sides, just sand them on a 120 grit sanding pad just to make them nice and even. And then the O-rings that we're using, we just go around with a cocktail stick. We just go around the edge and then paint the two halves. Once you've sanded the two halves, paint them black. You don't have to use a cocktail stick. Now the video gets confusing because we suddenly jump forward to this bit where I sand the interior down just to accommodate the slightly wider axle. It's worth leaving in because this is the kind of thing that might come up depending on what car you're doing, but obviously it's jumped forward to when the wheel's actually pretty much done. So it gives you an idea of what we're working towards, but like I say, it's quite confusing because it doesn't really show how we got there. This is the shot that I put up last night. This is the only thing fit to put up. I did about half an hour's footage and none of it was remotely usable apart from the first bit that we saw in the video and then that bit that you saw just then. Everything went wrong on the middle bit. So we'll start again with the assembly of the wheel so you can see exactly how it's done. So I've got one of the painted black halves of the bead that's going to form the basis of the wheel. And then I've taken one of the black pressed stud backing plates because they come in a variety of different colours, mainly black, silver and gold, and obviously you can paint them any colour you want. So you put that in there and then get your sort of tyre edge fitted. Now, because we're just doing this one completely in black, it skips quite a bit of the process, and I've used an O-ring that's exactly the same size as the wheel, so we're not even going to have to use the heat shrink tube, so it's just a case of gluing the O-ring onto the pressed stud backing plate and the half of the bead, and then to make the hole in the middle of the pressed stud backing plate so that the axle can pass through it, you just need an awl just to gently, because if you do it too viciously, you'll kind of distort the face of the pressed stud backing plate, and that's what gives it its kind of four-spoke wheel look. So we've just got quite a nice, shiny, smart black wheel here. Sometimes you might just have to encourage the axle to go through the hole that you've made with the awl, just like that. So we're going to fit these to this Siku Audi 100 that's been apparently dredged up from the bottom of the sea. It probably hasn't had any wheels or rolled for about 40 years. And if you look, the axle goes through nicely, the wheel fits on, it rolls. This is really the easiest version because there isn't any heat shrink tubing to put on and there isn't any paint to put around the rim. All I do with this is just put a little bit of gloss, a little bit of gloss clear in the centre, and leave the tyre sort of matte, and it does dry and look quite nice. This is a better way to do the O-rings if you're going to have if you're going to actually create that sort of silver wheel rim. How I did it before was I rushed it, just gave myself too much paint to have to send off later. It's a lot easier, and you've got a lot less sanding to do if you just gently go around the inner of it with the very tip of a cocktail stick. And you can go slightly over just to make sure you've got enough on, but how I did it yesterday really quickly, that just like I say, it just meant I had more sanding to do later. So we're going to see what this looks like on that old Audi in a second, but it does look quite good on the black wheels because, like I say, I just used the clear gloss just on the very centre and left the tyres completely unpainted. The opposite way around to how I normally do it, because when you put the silver rim on, it's usually better to gloss the tyre itself up a little bit. Really, I think those black wheels would probably look better on something else, and this Audi will look better on a full set of these. I mean, I've only made one that's like this for now, but I think that's what I'm going to make for it when I do get around to restoring that one. So this is a bigger one. This does need the heat shrink tube putting on it. I actually put 2 layers on this because when you use a slightly bigger O-ring that's bigger than the diameter of the bead, then you're going to get a kind of mushroom effect, and you don't really want that because it will look quite silly when the car's just kind of sat and the outer of the wheel is bigger than the inner. So a couple of layers of that heat shrink tubing just blasted on, and it's upsized the wheel. It's amazing how much difference it makes. So I'll sand the actual rim itself down now. Well, it's not a rim yet, it's just some silver paint on the edge of a plumbing O-ring, but when it gets sanded down, it should just nicely, as we've gone into before when I've been doing this with the old corgi wheels and things, it should just leave us with a nice straight, clean looking wheel rim. And it really is just like the very inside of a plumbing O-ring that's been painted silver and then just kind of sanded down. So just keep doing it. The more, if it keeps looking not neat, then keep doing it until it does look neat. And then eventually you should have something that looks like that. An important thing is that little bit of dandy shine around the outside though. Get the clear gloss and put that around the edge. When you've got the silver rim on there, it just seems to finish it off nicely. I know, like I say, with the gloss black one, you want the gloss black to be on the wheel centre and then none at all around the actual tyre rim. If you happen to make a bit of a pig's ear of it, you can just do it again. There's been many a time when I've got to the end of this and I've just thought it just looks a little bit rough and just seems to have taken a bit too much paint off with the sanding or not got enough off or whatever. Just rub the whole thing down with some very fine steel wool and then repeat the process of recreating the tyre rim as before. So just go around the edge of it with the paint, with the cocktail stick, and then repeat the sanding process. So I'm going to give a nice summary now as to exactly what you do. So you get this bead and you cut it in half using the hacksaw. Once you've got it in half, sand it, the underneath of it, on 120 grit. You need the 1mm brass rod to make the axle. I know I've not done it with this one, but paint the bead black and put your pressed stud backing plate onto it. Paint the wheel rim onto the O-ring and super glue that to the bead, and then put your heat shrink around it. Flambe it on with the lighter. When the silver paint for the wheel rim's dry, you can put it face down and sand it. You've then got your complete wheel. You can bore your hole for the axle using the awl, and then go around the rim using the Tamiya Gloss Clear. Use some end cutters to cut the axle to size, and then because brass is quite soft, you should just be able to use some long nose pliers just to actually make the crimp, just to crush the brass into a crimp. And you should end up with something like this. So for the Ranchero, I wanted to give it like bigger wheels on the back than on the front. So I used the smallest for the front wheels, the smallest pressed stud backing plate for the front one, and then the next size up for the rear one, and then obviously slightly different sized O-rings as well. And then the old Audi, probably rolling for the first time in 40 years. That's the nice simple one where you don't really need to do much paint. It's just the black bead. O-ring goes on as it is. Pressed stud backing plate goes on as it is. Just gloss the very centres of the wheels just to help bring out the details of the backing plate, which gives you like the wheel pattern. You can probably see that there's only 2 wheels on this car. It's just kind of propped up on the other side with the beads. But I will make a full set for it. Probably with the silver rims, though, rather than the black. These black ones will look good on something else. Probably on something that's going to be all black, I would have thought. And then this is just the other one, this random one that I made that's not like any of the others. I put that on a Capri just to demonstrate that it can sort of pass as an RS4 spoke, or maybe even a row style, if you're standing far enough away, but you get the general idea. There's certainly going to be a lot more we can do with these, and I will be doing. But for now, in the absence of a catchphrase or any kind of wacky sign-off, thanks for watching.